There's a phrase people repeat all the time: be yourself. And I've never really bought into it. It sounds comforting, it sounds empowering, but something about it feels incomplete, because it assumes the version of you that exists right now is something finished, something you're meant to preserve. And I don't really see life that way. I'm not the same person I was a few years ago, not even close. Every year my thinking shifts, my understanding of what matters shifts. And with that, I keep noticing the same thing. There are gaps in the way I used to think, gaps in the way I used to act, and gaps in the way I used to accept. So the question then becomes, why would the goal be to stay the same? Why would being yourself mean preserving a version of you that was never final to begin with? Jordan Peterson talks about this concept of aiming at an ideal, choosing something higher than where you currently are, and then slowly moving towards it. Because without an ideal, there's nothing to correct yourself against. There's nothing to aim for. There's nothing that pulls you forward. And for most people, that's where things get uncomfortable. Because it's a lot easier to accept yourself as you are than to constantly look at areas where you're falling short. It's easier to settle into familiarity than to always challenge it. And the brain is really good at reinforcing that. It convinces you that you're fine, that things are good enough, and that change can wait. But change itself, it requires energy. And the brain is built to conserve energy wherever it can. But the problem is, self-improvement doesn't quite work without friction. It asks you to face the things that you're avoiding. It asks you to raise your standards. It asks you to outgrow habits that you've normalized. And trust me, I have failed at that more times than I can count. Because I've set expectations that I couldn't always meet. I've let myself down. I've slipped back into old habits. But at no point did I decide to give up. I've just learned to adjust my expectations as I move forward, even slightly. Because if you aim high and you fall short, you're still ahead of where you started. And over time that compounds into something meaningful. So I guess the better question isn't, are you being yourself? It's, are you becoming someone that you respect more than you did the day before? Think about it. Thank you for listening. I'll see you guys next week.